y'all were pointing out how the Quran seems to describe things that about the Injil that would contradict our New Testament. It describes things about Jesus that we would not agree with. And so I heard y'all pointing out the Quran must have a different Injil in mind. Is that a correct thought there?
You made a little bit of a overlap here. Not a different Injil. What the Quran has in mind is the Injil. There's no such thing as a different Injil.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
when the Quran talks about the Injil, it's talking about the very specific revelation, the unadulterated, direct word of God that was given as revelation to Jesus Christ or Isa alayhi salam.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. That distinction is okay for what I'm pointing out. No problem there. So what I found kind of humorous was if it did align completely, then we wouldn't be having this conversation in the first place. It's the fact that it claims different points theologically, historically. That is the reason why we're saying, hey, you can't affirm my book. It's saying something different than you're actually putting it forward to be saying. And so if it was in alignment, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Do you see why like that's a little bit interesting to me that y'all were appealing to the differences and then saying, see, so it had to have been a different text. But that's just like my presupposition versus yours. Whereas I would say they just didn't know what they were talking about.
My friend, you've kind of missed the point a little bit. It's not that they're talking. It's not about they're talking about different things. It's that they are different things. Okay? One is the words of men that came dozens of years later with an unspecified authorship. And the other is talking about a direct revelation which was given to Jesus. It's apples and oranges. It's not that one talks about something different and one talks about something different, and that's the problem. It's that they're two different things. So you have to understand that the point that you're trying to draw, that it's because of this. It's not because of this. For a different argument, that may have been the case. For this specific point, that's not the case.
When in doubt, let's give a little example to kind of clear everything up, okay? So, Orange, I don't know your real name, so I'm just gonna call you Orange, okay?
Yeah, that works. Yeah,
no worries. So you said you were here earlier. I do apologize. I don't remember having a conversation with you. So to me, this is my first time meeting you that I can recall. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
So, and I brought this example up earlier. So let's say I'm writing a book, right? I'm writing a book. And in the book, I said that on October 10th, right? I'm in Eastern Standard Time, right? October 10th, I met this one guy who went by Orange, and then in the entire book, I'm talking about things that Orange and I talked about. You know, his name was Orange. I referred to him by Orange. He and we had a conversation, like etc., right? The whole premise of my book is referring to this one guy named Orange. Now, you would think, wait a minute. I mean, my name is Orange, and Ali met me October 10th. How do I know it's not talking about me? Okay, but then you read on. And then you read on, and I said the Orange, I mentioned in my book that the Orange I'm talking about, I did not meet online. I met him at the mall. I met him in actual face-to-face, right? Now, the problem is, you would come to the conclusion that I'm talking about a different Orange. That's not you, but you would not say that, oh well, I'm talking about a different Orange. You not say that, because if you're doing an internal critique, the whole time I'm writing about my book, this guy named Orange, it's not something that's different. It was the Orange, or the guy named Orange, from the very beginning to the end, meaning that Orange in my book was the standard throughout the entire time, right? Does that give you a little bit of understanding?
Now, like, draw your points between the analogy you just made and what they would connect to in the Quran and the Bible.
So yeah, so the analogy that I just made in the connection is simple. Once you have two things that has the same name, your name is Orange, and the name of the person I met in my book is Orange. However, and I said I met them, and I met you. So wait a minute. How can you know that it's not talking about you specifically? Simple. The moment I said in my book that I met Orange face to face, meaning in person at the mall on this day, you would say, wait a minute. Ali did not meet me on the mall. We met online. We met on YouTube, right? So at that
Okay,
moment,
so you're just saying context gives clarification.
context gives clarification. The moment I identify
Yeah.
the features of who the orange in my book is, you can clarify, wait a minute, it's not the same as what happened with me and Ali. He must be talking, even though we have the same name, he must have been talking about a different orange the entire time.
Okay. So for context, for what I brought up that I found it was interesting, the talking point I heard y'all bring up a lot is that the Quran is describing a different text of the Christians that's true. And you guys give your descriptions for what you think that is and how you believe the Quran describes it. But the whole reason we're having this conversation is because there's differences. I believe that it's because the author didn't really know what he was talking about. He just heard it in the streets and orally. You guys believe it's because there was a different true text, which we just don't really know what it is today. But that's kind of like the reason why we're having this conversation is because the Quran does make different points with regard to Jesus and the Injil as you see it. So that's just like, yes, that's the starting point. That's not an issue for the Islamic dilemma to exist as a conversation. That's the reason it's a conversation.
No, I think it's a misunderstanding, a straw man from your guys' side, where the Christians, I think they ran out of arguments how to defend their Bible's authenticity. That is why they came up with this argument. This is the honest truth. You can actually track how it actually started by David Wood and co, and then how it evolved, and how it became what it is today. Because from the very beginning, it's been a straw man, right? I'm not going to talk about other apologists. You can speak to them, right? So, but the position that we hold, that the Quran is referring to something completely different than yours, hence it is not a dilemma. Whether you want to talk about the psyche or the knowledge of the author, we believe it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is God Almighty. You believe it's the prophet. Again, that is an external critique. What we are actually discussing at the moment is the text of the Quran itself. Is it referring to your Bible? You guys are the claimants. You have to substantiate that claim, without changing the goalpost. Because in all of these dialogues, I constantly see the goalpost being changed all the time. Okay, but where is it? Et cetera, et cetera. The entire time we hear the Quran is affirming, the Quran is affirming, the Quran is affirming. We're like, okay, where does it say, this XYZ? You guys describe it to be, multiple gospels. The Quran refers to it as a single book, The Quran refers to it as revelation from God. You guys don't believe that. That's it. Like, at this point, it's just desperation.
There's a lot we still have to get to, but yeah, I heard you guys talking to the last guy, so I definitely have heard a lot of that. There's so many things I want to point out as I'm hearing in the conversation. One thing you said was that we can track the Islamic dilemma, starting with David Wood, if we go back. I would disagree with that, and you guys are probably familiar because this has been brought up on social media a lot recently. But George, I'm probably going to butcher his last name, George Bietin, a Syriac Christian patriarch from the 8th century, just literally lays out the Islamic dilemma. So obviously this has been in conversation for a long time, notably that person being Syriac.
Was he in Arab?
In the 8th century?
Did he understand Arabic?
I'm not getting into that question because that assumes it's important. I was just pointing out that the argument exists back then. I'm not conceding
it is very important.
that it's important. I'm not conceding that it's important. Because David Wood doesn't speak. Hey, let me make this point. David Wood does not speak Arabic, but you're saying he started it.
You can't be spewing stuff and expect me to brush, all of those aside and move on. No, I want to debunk exactly what you said. Tell me what you know about George of Belton? Go ahead.
What I want to point out is that
Because
David
he
Wood does not know
specifically
Arabic.
pointed out 1094, did he not?
I believe he did.
Okay. Did he know Arabic?
Does David Wood know Arabic?
No, he doesn't. That's why he's a
And you're
dumbass.
saying he started the argument?
That's why he's a moron. That's why he
Okay.
does not.
That's
he
fine.
doesn't understand.
That's fine
the
if that's your
difference.
opinion about him.
No. Wait. I'm not done. I'm not done. So be quiet.
Okay.
Okay. Respect me on my platform. Allow me to finish. I allowed you to finish. Okay. You made a point, and you wanted to just brush that aside and move on to no. I am going to catch you on this, and I'm going to debunk it until you morons like yourself stop using this type of argument. That it was brought up by a person that was a non-Arab. He was a moron, just like David Wood, or probably even a bigger moron that did not know that the Arabic verse that he's referring to, فَإِن كُنْتَ over there in Arabic, that is rhetorical. That is not even hypothetical. Morons like Avery and David Wood and Sam Shimon don't know these things. For this, you actually have to go to classical Arabs, Arabs that know classical Arabic language, not jock and die these morons or a person from 1,000 years ago that didn't even speak even a single word of Arabic that you can provide your evidence for. So I don't care if it didn't work back then. Why do you think it will work today? Why do you think it will work today? And what does that even do for me? It is a pagan bishop that said, yeah, blah, 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 blah. What do I care about that?
Am I good to go now?
Yes, but provide your evidence or take back your claim about George of Belton. Did he know Arabic, yes or no?
That's not the question I want to answer. So I don't have anything I want to say.
Okay, perfect. So don't bring this
I
up
actually
anymore.
brought this up. I brought this up because you had said David Wood.
Now tell me this. You said that he was the first one that brought it up. Did he make this assumption? Or did he formulate it in this way?
Did you
The
say
way
you were going to
how
let me
Christians
finish after
formulate it.
You said I could go now, and now you're cutting me off. Can
Go
I
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So I brought this up because just the first point I was trying to address is that you said David Wood started this argument. Now, you're saying he started that argument. You know David Wood doesn't speak Arabic. But I'm pointing out this
Lick
guy,
of Arabic.
George Britton.
Yeah.
Okay, but George Britton, obviously also very unfamiliar with Arabic. So he is under the same grounds, I'm also able to say, the one who definitely earlier started the argument. I am just pointing out this has been in conversation much before David Wood. It's not an invention of the modern day. That is the only thing that that's the first thing I wanted to address. Whether or not he speaks Arabic is irrelevant because you were saying David Wood started the argument.
No.
If you're willing to admit he started the argument, but he doesn't know Arabic,
it is relevant.
that guy could have
Now,
started
I
the
have
argument
other people
without
waiting
knowing.
backstage and you're just waffling, not getting to the point. Now,
Okay,
let's get back to the point.
I'm
So I
addressing
don't
something
care
you
about
said.
what a pagan bishop that believes in 3 gods and eats his God in his Sunday union. I don't care about that. What he has to say about Islam. He has to first learn how to count gods, then he can talk about my religion. Okay, now let's get back to the internal critique. Now, can you provide evidence from the Quran or from our ahadith that it is the Islam is affirming your Bible? Yes or no?
Okay, so going to the Quran to think about the Injil it's referring to. I understand, and correct me if you guys have a different opinion, that the Quran was meant to be the last revelation for all peoples going forward, and that there's no other revelation after it. Am I correct on that?
Mm-hmm. Irrelevant to the topic, but yes.
To me, I actually believe it's relevant, so I would disagree with you there. I think it's relevant because if the Quran is referring to the text of the Christians, and this is meant to be something that appeals to mankind going forward as the last revelation, then the dominant text that is going to go in people's minds when the Bible is referred to, 7th century, you could even debate about Medina specifically, but 7th century going forward for mankind, they're going to think of the same texts that I have in my mind
Appeal
right
to
now.
popularity fallacy. Move on. Make second argument.
If the Quran is for the populace, then what the populace is getting kind of matters because it's what they're going to think
critique,
on for this
you are
book that's supposed to be
outside of
clear.
the realm of the internal critique. Once again, I have to keep reminding you, this is an internal critique you're doing. You're already appealing to external sources.
I'm appealing to the nature of the Quran and how it relates to us.
Perfect. Now show me whatever you're saying Tell me the chapter and verse of the Quran or hadith number. Go right ahead. Else, I don't want to continue this conversation because you can't even track what an internal and external critique is. You can't even differentiate. You keep going back to the historicity and you keep appealing to the popularity. We grant you all of that. I can tell you, yes. You know, I could be an atheist. This is the beauty of this argument. This is how stupid this argument is. How moronic this argument is. That I can sit over here as an atheist and I can debunk it. This is how it is. With my eyes closed. I can train a monkey and he can debunk this argument. You know why? Because all I have to do is just ask you, chapter and verse, where does it say what you're claiming? That's it, khalas.
Okay, I'm happy to go to examples where I do believe that the Quran is that last revelation that's meant for all people in a clear sense. But you already conceded that, and that's all I need for my point. So I was just pointing out the clear interpretation people are going to have going forward when they see this text that's being referred to of the Christians, of the Jews, the Torah, all that. They're going to think of the same text that I'm going to be pointing to today.
How old are you, brother? How old are you?
I'm 19, sir.
19. Okay. Anyways, before moving on to the next person, because I don't think you're tracking the argument, brother. Okay, with all due respect to you. I already had the conversation with the previous brother. You were listening. I specifically pointed out the differences between what you guys referred to as the Gospels and the Injil.
I actually wouldn't concede
it is proven. May I complete? If it is proven, even though you're the claimant, you're not. You're saying a lot of things, but you're not speaking anything. Right? Nothing of substance. That you've been here for 20 minutes or so. You haven't made sense out of a single thing because constantly you're talking about irrelevant things. Okay. Now I will bring you back to the topic. Is there a difference between how the Quran or Islam describes Injil and Torah versus what you guys refer to as the Bible? Yes or no? That's all I want to know.
Is there a difference in how they're described?
Yes.
That's the basis of the Islamic dilemma.
Duh, no shit, Sherlock.
So yes.
Right? That's why I am saying, so if it is not referring to the same thing from within the Islamic sources, is there a dilemma anymore, yes or no?
Well, internally it could be.
Internally, would it still be a dilemma, yes or no?
Yes, because it could be referring to the same thing without knowing what it's talking about. And
that's external. Again, like subhanallah. Orange.
You asked me a question about my belief regarding the Islamic dilemma. I gave it to you.
Orange. My brother, my dear brother in humanity, please do me a small favor, okay? When you're done with the conversation with me, just look up the difference between internal and external. You've committed so many fallacies that I
bring up verses, and I want to ask you about verses too.
Dude, you've already conceded without even knowing.
You've conceded.
Like, why do you guys not understand this? Look, I will do exactly what I did with the other. I don't know if you were watching, okay? 2 different books being talked about. This is not this. This is yellow in color, different shape, size, content, etc. If it is not the claimant, you cannot prove that it is referring to this. On the other hand, I can prove that it is not referring to this, instead it is referring to this. Would there still be a dilemma if you cannot prove that it is referring to this? Yes or no? All I have to show you one difference. I don't have to show you 20 differences, just one difference.
Okay, so one difference would be, like you're saying, it's one book, right? It's not like the 4 Gospels that I believe. You would say it's the one book, right?
I said all I have to do is show you one difference. I can show you 20 if you want.
Okay, but that would be an example of a difference you've pointed out, right?
Yes.
Okay, so one possibility could be that I would love for you to show me where you think it just that it's one book. But let's say that it does. All I would believe in the Islamic dilemma is
brother,
that it
let him complete, then you can continue, inshallah, with him.
Yeah, for sure, it's short.
No, before it goes too long, because
it's not going to be long.
Hi to you. Just to make it clearer to you, we're not discussing whether the Quran is correct or not.
Yes.
Okay. In your paradigm, we might accept a discussion about the accuracy of the Quran, whether it's accurate or not. That's not what we're discussing here. We're discussing within the Quranic paradigm, yeah, which includes both the Quran and the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the Quranic paradigm, yeah. Within that paradigm, do you see a dilemma when it's talking about the scriptures, and why?
Yes. Okay, so what I was saying was...
Remember, we're not talking about whether it's accurate. It could be wrong. I'll give you that, okay? We'll discuss it later.
Yeah.
Okay? So leave that for a future discussion. What we're discussing now is within what the Quran is saying. Is there a dilemma or not?
Yes.
Okay, provide. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so for the example, because I don't think that the Quran is claiming the same things that you guys believe as Muslims today regarding the Injil. That's why I'm saying that. Okay, going forward, what I was trying to say earlier was with your one example where the Injil is actually one book and it's not the four Gospels. Okay, I understand that you believe that's what the Quran is saying. Again, I'd love for you to show me that. But if it was saying it's just one book, that is just an instance where I would say, oh, the Quranic author has no idea what he's talking about. The actual text going forward that we're going to know
makes it wrong, and this is not what we're discussing.
So there you go, Orange. Do you see how you're doing exactly what the brother told you not to do?
You don't like this.
No, Orange. Look, brother.
It's not about that.
You're misunderstanding what the brother is saying. Look, that's why I told you. I could be an atheist over here. An atheist wouldn't believe in Islam or the Quran, would he?
Nope.
Right? Imagine I'm an atheist. Even I would disprove you. But all I have to do is tell you, open up chapter 3, verse 3. It specifically says that God sent a revelation to Jesus. Do you believe in this? And you will say no. And you'll be like, okay, Fawad, there's no Islamic dilemma. That's it. Why? Because what Orange is holding in his hand is completely different than what the Quran is describing. He's an atheist. He doesn't care about God. He doesn't care about, Bible or the Quran. He has no dog in the race. Do you understand this?
If the Quran described the same book that I was reading, we wouldn't be having this conversation in the first place. We have to deal with the fact that it's saying things that are different. That doesn't refute the Islamic dilemma off the bat.
Do you understand that is going externally? Ali, I'm almost done. Just give me 10 seconds. Yeah. Do you understand that what you just said right now is going outside of the realm of internal critique? Did you realize this? If you don't, it's okay. Ask. We can educate you.
So speaking on the Islamic dilemma, I'm going to look at the Quran and also think about history and facts surrounding what Islam claims.
No.
Can't do that. That's
you know why? No, Brother Sarmat, let's ask him. You know why? Tell me why not, or why you think you can run both.
We're having a conversation about the Islamic dilemma. We have always brought up the Bible and textual criticism and thinking about outside the Quran when we talk about the Islamic dilemma.
Have I gone once to textual criticism or the Bible?
I don't care what you're going to. The title is the Islamic dilemma, and that's
Islamic dilemma, not the Christian freaking dilemma, dude. Orange, brother, with all due respect to you, should learn the difference between the two. Okay, that's where the reason why you cannot run both of them together is because it becomes fallacious. If you're doing an internal critique, then you must accept the Islamic or the Quranic definition of Injil and Torah.
Did I not already articulate what an internal and external is?
1 second, brother. Let me finish. Okay, you cannot smuggle in your own definition. Neither can you smuggle in your, historic assumptions. Okay, when you're running an external critique, you're attacking Quran from the outside. Okay, you cannot build your case about a contradiction from the Islamic paradigm when you're actually, saying the Quran affirms it, but then you disregard the Quran completely and you say, no, but hang on a second, we don't have any historical account of anybody believing in XYZ, or my church never told me this, or this is not what the canon that we had. We are more than happy to talk to you about what type of beliefs they had in the 7th century. That's a separate topic. The moment you say it's the Islamic dilemma, you're bound by the Quran and our hadith. You can bring in our early scholars as well, no problem, because they would also be referring to the Quran and Sunnah in regards to this particular topic, right? But you're not doing that, brother. You keep doing that. You keep saying 1094, yeah, but then, so when I start explaining that to you, where I actually put the burden of proof on you that, okay, show me where does it refer to your Bible? Then you're like, yeah, but we know historically, again, you went to external, from internal to external, and then back to internal, then back to external. This is what cherry picking is. It becomes fallacious. And you guys keep doing this again and again. This is not, analytical philosophy 101. I can explain to you all of these fallacies to you, okay? But I'm not going to do this over here while I have like...
I get what y'all are doing. I just think that you're making an issue out of something that isn't as big of an issue for our conversation. So the Islamic dilemma claims that the Quran contradicts the book that it's trying to affirm. So when we bring up the Islamic dilemma, you are also bringing up the Gospels as I understand them. So no, when we talk about the Islamic dilemma, I am not just subject to the Injil as you understand it, because I think you have a wrong understanding of the Injil as the Quran describes it. And when you look at that text that the argument's referring to, it's outside of the Quran.
Take care, Oren. Take care.